It's come to my realization that a lot of you are curious on how to reach out to models to start working with them, like agency models, not just your neighborhood local wanna be a model type of person. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of give you the best ways to reach out, the ways to find out who to reach out to, and how to initiate that conversation so you come off professional, cool, not weird, and so you have a successful initiation and that the model will want to work with you. That being said, I just took an edible, so the countdown has begun on how long I have before it hits to finish this video. So enough chattering and let's get right into it. But one thing first, if you're new to the channel, my name is Gabriel Perez Silva. I'm a fashion and celebrity photographer based out of New York City. If you're not familiar with my work, here is some of it across the screen now, or you could check some of it out on my Instagram. I really encourage you to check out some of my other videos because there's a ton of different topics, all photography related, BTS, etc. And yeah, go have fun, go wild, as the kids say. As I talked about in the previous video, how I'm going about planning a good amount of editorials right now to get into the process of developing my style, I myself had to revisit this a little bit and start reaching out to old contacts and putting out feelers and looking into finding models that I want to work with and contacting them. Also, PSA, I have a good amount of knowledge on agencies and agents and how they work because when I first came to New York, I was interning at a modeling agency for half a year. I was also signed with Elite up until recently, but during the pandemic, as like a talent. And I, of course, have worked with a lot of different agents and agencies throughout my career as a photographer and doing tests and all of the sorts. But anyways, fast forwards, backwards, fast rewind. Before I even had my experience working with the agency in New York as an intern, my first ever interaction with any type of model, like actually signed model, was when I was living in Italy. And at that point, I felt my career, I was like, all right, I'm done shooting just random girls that I know. I'm done shooting Instagram girls. And I want to take it to the next level and start working with real models, real signed agency models, because it's a great way to start with the people in your local area that you're familiar with. It's a necessary way to start, which we'll get to in a little bit. But at the end of the day, to take your work to the next level, it's a collaborative approach that's going to be necessary and needed. And you're not going to be able to do that by just photographing, your neighborhood friend or the neighborhood person who's a little bit more photogenic than the rest. Anyways, I was in Italy. I was reaching out to some agencies by sending emails, sending my portfolio, and I wasn't really getting any responses. But at that time, I was hungry. I was like, nah, like I'm doing it, so I walked over there, which I don't know if I would like particularly recommend doing nowadays. But I walked over there and I knocked on the door, and I was like, yo, like, hey, I'm a photographer. I'm living here right now, and I want to show you my portfolio and start working with the models. At the beginning, she was really rude, and then she saw my work, and even then I was so very I was very green, but she kind of switched up a little bit and then started working with some of those models. And then the other second big agency in Florence that was there started seeing that I was working with those models, and then I started working with some of their models. And a lot of times, if you're able to contact one of these models directly, then the agency will see it and then they'll reach out to you and be like, yo, you want to shoot some other girls, etc., etc. Usually, if they're happy, it'll lead to them asking you if you do tests. Now, with tests, you may not be familiar with this term. It's a test shoot is basically what you would call this. It's when the shoot you're doing is basically just like, it's not going to be published anywhere. It's not going to be for a job. It's just going to be like you and the model, either just the photographer, the model shooting it, or, I guess preferably there'd be a stylist and makeup and all that. In the past, it was easier for me to just shoot with the model directly. But again, that only goes so far and it's only good occasionally. But it's like, if you want to take stuff to the next level, you need a team. It's all about collaborative effort and approach. Doing things by yourself, it's only going to get you so far, really. And after a certain point, you'll be past that and you'll be looking forward. The first thing you're going to do, right, before you do anything here, is you're going to look at your work on your Instagram, on your website. Now, if you don't have a website or portfolio, you're going to have to take an extra hard look at your work and think to yourself, am I ready to shoot agency models? Because before you start reaching out to these people, you have to make sure that you have something to show that you're ready to go there, you know what you're doing, or you at least like can seem like you know what you're doing. Because if you show up or you send an email with an architecture portfolio or a few photos of your dog, a few photos of your, like nephew, I don't know, that's not going to really show them anything. It's only going to show them that they shouldn't respond because you just seem like any photographer who just bought a camera who wants to hang out with girls, you know what I mean? Or guys. If this is you, before you start submitting or before you start reaching out, before you even get to the point of thinking about where to find the contacts, you need to go out. And for you, this would be a good time to reach out to like neighborhood, not neighborhood, but local Instagram people or friends you have that may be models or semi-models or whatever like that, and plan a few shoots with them. But like try to find inspiration to go a little bit more the editorial route. So it's not like, I guess if you live in Miami, that's a little different. But at the end of the day, if you want to get these test shoots, there's a lot of value going a little bit the editorial route. You don't want to have like too much bikini in your portfolio. You don't want your portfolio to be too sexy. Agencies don't like too sexy, and it'll probably lead to not having a response. But once you start building this up, once you have something to show, then you're at the step where you can start reaching out. Number 2, what you're going to do next is you're going to go to Google. And depending on what city you live in, you're going to look up, for example, New York City modeling agencies. Now, you're going to go through there. I would say if you're starting out, especially if you're starting out, don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to the big agencies. Don't just limit yourself to Next, Elite, Wilhelmina, Society, all the big ones. Don't just limit yourself to that. Start with the small ones too. There's a lot of boutique agencies that especially need photographers, and it'll be a little bit easier to get in. And just start looking through the websites. Start looking through the models and the sites and seeing if there's any that you think resonate with you, that you like, that you want to photograph. And always, most of the time, 90% of the time, their social media is attached in their books. Their books is what you call their webpage at the nowadays in time. And you can go ahead and click their links. You see you're directly already at the model's Instagram now. And what I would suggest you do before really like finding emails of the agencies or, hitting their support line or like the general line, I would suggest you go and DM the individual model, and now DM them and say, whatever you want to say. All right, if you go on to my last Instagram post and comment like the speaker bass boosted sounding emoji, I'll DM you kind of like a little template script you can kind of copy and paste and use for when you hit them up, so you don't send something too wordy or not wordy at all or too unprofessional. And basically what's going to happen, right, is a couple things. First of all, they could not answer, which is very possible. Number 2, they could answer and just say, yeah, let's do it for sure. Or number 3, they could say, here's my agent's email, could you contact them please, and I would love to make it happen, or whatever, right? None of these options are bad. They're all positive or neutral, I guess, the first one. But if they don't answer, you're going to look at their page, and most of the times they'll have an email in their bio, which will be contact for bookings or whatever it may be, and it'll be their agent's information. It won't be hard to find their agent's info, dude. And at that point, you can email the agent. But I would probably say this is the easiest way, where if you just like find a way to set up a shoot, do it well, and then usually the agents will see it, like it, and then you have kind of an in there, and they'll typically be like, send you more people or ask you if you do tests. The thing with tests is that most of the time they're not paid. Most of the time. And if they are paid, it's not that much. So there's some people who are just straight up test photographers. I only would do tests really when I was like, I mean, I do tests now because I really want to shoot with somebody. Right now I'm reaching out to models mostly because I'm casting for some of these projects I'm doing. Typically I'll just DM them directly, but this is the best way. And again, I mean, you can then if they don't answer, you see their agent's email, then you can go ahead and email them. And usually what will happen if they do want to shoot with you is you can ask for them to send you a package. And basically a package is when they'll send you a link with like an encrypted, they'll send you an email with like an encrypted link, or it'll be like a link that basically takes you to like a page that has like a bunch of different girls or guys or the models in general that typically they're looking to have, they need more images for their book. So they're looking for photographers to shoot with them. And you can go through and see if you find anybody interesting, you want to shoot with anybody. And then you go about, talking details, things like that. That being said, dude, like, another big aspect to all this is the third part of all this play. Because the third part is, if you're going to approach and work with modeling agencies and agency models, it requires you to to have a level of professionalism in your work. Not all of us come from like, New York City or from a background in fashion and stuff like that. Like when I first came here, it was a big culture shock to me working in this agency, and like you have to learn the walk, the talk, how to like go about everything. And I'm just gonna lay down a couple things. I don't know what example to give, what I mean? But like again, you don't want to say too much, you don't want to say too little, and it all really comes down to like the work you can show. So again, if your Instagram is straight not good, and it's just like, or on the other hand, it's just like a bunch of naked girls, dude, like clean that up, because they're not going to want to work with you, and the agencies are definitely not going to want to have these people work with you, because that's not what they're going for. And you don't like, they might be concerned about putting their girls or guys in in a compromising situation. So the best thing for you to do is also like, if you're going to start reaching out, or if you have been reaching out and having not a lot of success, you're going to want to go onto your page, scroll through a bit, and clean it up. Clean it up. You can take off pictures of you and your friends, take off pictures that are irrelevant, take off pictures that don't really have much to do, and just kind of clean it up and have your best work. And I think that will really go a long way. And if you haven't shot a lot with people, then start posting some of that, and that'll help. And you can start with your local agencies. You might have some good luck there, and then all that will inversely climb into working with bigger agencies and the big city agencies and the bigger models. Once you start working with one of the girls, one of the guys, then most likely, if it goes well, if the photos look well, the agents will reach out, or you'll have that information to reach out, or when you're with them, you can ask them for the agent's contact or for an intro, and you can easily start working with more models and possibly start getting paid for it. Like I said, a lot of these test shoots are not paid though. Still, it's a good thing to do at some point. It's a good way to have better faces in front of your camera, start working, getting more experience, and start working with teams, getting stylists, makeup artists, From that to my fourth and final point of this conversation, and this has to do with the whole knowing how to conduct yourself, not just verbally, but also while you're working with this, with across anybody, like, it could be your local neighborhood model, but like, especially like, everybody, but like, if you're working with these people, you need to know how to conduct yourself. You have to maintain professionalism, but while being not a robot and still being able to relate, have humor. Again, the humor, like, keep it PG-13. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to just come out with like R-rated humor. Like, some people, everything in their jokes is it's all sexualized. It's like kind of weird, but but whatever. Like, you want to keep those jokes in the back of your pocket for when you get home or something, because you obviously don't want to be like making somebody feel uncomfortable, especially if y'all just met and are in a setting where it's like, you get what I'm saying? Like ease into it, ease into the conversation, feel it out. And just the first couple ones, be careful, but you also don't want to be a robot. You still got it's really important to relate to a person, to find like a middle ground, to be able to have humor and laugh, and to be able to build trust so that the person can really come out of their shell for the photos, and so that you can relax. Because I used to get nervous when I used to do some of these shoots, dude. I used to get really nervous. I mean, in general, I'm kind of like, that's my, like, I get like, I was like kind of like an athlete. Like up until like I'm like there shooting, no matter how big or small the job is, like I'm a little bit like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, like, do I know how to do this? Whatever. I mean, tests for me are pretty easy, especially like if it's just like the camera and the model and I. But like I said, that's like pretty rare for me nowadays. But more on the conducting yourself. This also includes in your messaging back and forth, with the model, with the agent. Like when you're talking to the agent, and you're done with the shoot afterwards, post shoot, like let's say you made it this far and everything goes well, and then post shoot, you can't take 3 months to send the photos, dog. You feel me? You can't take 3 months to send the photos. That's ridiculous, and they'll never call you again. And at that point, like, throw them in the garbage, because who cares at that point? You know what I mean? Like 2 weeks max, really. Like, and the faster you do them, the better. I don't know. I also just find I'm excited for photos right when I do them. Like if a lot of time passes, like most likely not gonna even won't be excited about them anymore. Like these tests aren't for you to go crazy either. Like if it's just a test, it's typically pretty simple. And it's also for your book, but it's also for the model's book. So you're gonna want to make sure you're getting some like clean shots in there for them too, not just something like really crazy that it wouldn't make sense. If you look at some of these photographers who do a lot of test shoots that are work, you can kind of see what that standard is or what you should be aiming to do. If you do want to do something a little crazier, then you can plan a whole editorial type of situation. And again, you can get help from agents to cast that, but that's kind of a little bit of a different story. But that being said, all in all, the main things to take away from this conversation is, number one, self-audit. Look at your work. Look at your Instagrams, really. Do you have a portfolio online? And check that stuff out. Remove whatever needs to be removed. Add whatever needs to be added. Find the agencies in your area. Look through the pages. Find the models you like. Keep an eye out for the page that says development, because those girls and guys who are fresh faces are usually the ones that are going to need more photos. It means they're newer, they're in the development period, they're younger. They're most likely going to need photos. They're most likely going to be the people that they send you in the packages. And they're most likely going to have less followers, so you can go and see and so you can have more chance also of them seeing your messages and responding. Pro tip that I saved until the end of the video: when you send a DM, it's not weird to comment under their last post or something and say, messaged you. Some people really don't see it. And it's a little bit more of like a front forward approach, but it's not too drastic. Like, you can go and like some of the photos and say messaged you if they don't reply after. Maybe like a few photos, and then maybe like they don't say anything. Like another hour, say messaged you. I mean, after that, yeah, maybe it's you can just send the email, but like that really works sometimes, dude. And well, it works a lot of times, and it's helpful. And then after that, learning how to conduct yourself in messaging, and not saying too much, not saying too little, talking to agents. Remember to comment on my last post one of those emojis that are like a speaker, and I'll send you a little kind of like a little copy and paste of what you can like DM a model to shoot. That being said, y'all, thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. I have shot a couple new things, and I'm still planning these big editorials that I'm working on. These aren't the big editorials, just a couple other things I've shot. But I will say I've been having more fun editing lately, and I cleared out my Instagram of a lot of photos of myself, and I had to self-audit too. Like, we all do it, and I feel like I can see my style self-emerging a bit more. So, get ready for these big shoots coming up. And again, y'all, see you in a later episode. Have a lovely day. Remember to subscribe and see the other videos. Goodbye.